What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are here with another spectacular interview. I am very lucky to be joined by internet sensation, Geordie Greep musician friend, writer of hit songs such as I Am Rectangular. We are here with the one and only Sean Stevens, also CEO of Tree Frog. How are you doing?
I'm amazing, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic today. It's a great day.
It is a good day. It's a bit snowy outside where I am. I'm in Canada, so but on that, pretty good.
Nice, yeah. I just came back from Boston and there was a big snowstorm, so
Yes, there's a lot. That is true.
The first thing I'd like to talk about is, your kind of rise to fame with Instagram and with all the other social media platforms. So you've kind of risen up and made these songs in various parts of the world that have effectively gone viral. Were you expecting that when you posted those videos?
Was I expecting that? No, not the tune that's going. Today I posted something that's had 2 million people see it, and day before that was 1.6 million, and today, no, I guess it was yesterday, and today's post has already got like 300,000. It's crazy. The numbers are astounding. I did the numbers in my head. If I just wanted to like run down the street and like high five 2 million people, that would take, I think, and somebody's probably correct me on this, I think that would take like 3 months. Just high-fiving. So listen, I'm like really honored that whatever the internet gods have decided to do, that they have shone their light upon me.
Exactly. And I'm sure your hand would hurt after that many hands, you know?
True, true. I wonder if you even could do that without your hand falling off or the skin wearing off. That's funny. That's a whole new thing for me to think about. Thank you.
And do you think that people have a different thought process, knowing that you are not only Sean Stevens, musician, but Sean Stevens, CEO of a pretty big company, you know?
Yeah, I think most people hate me for it. That might actually be one of the reasons why the internet has decided to bless me with its eyeballs. I'm not sure it's necessarily blessing me with its happiness or joy, although some people obviously connect fairly well with the song Rectangular as well as with other songs. The current song that's sort of going crazy is 1,000 Miles, which is related to my traveling around, and I've got other ones that have done really well as well, like Square and Circle and other things. Uh, but I mean, in general, the fact that I am a CEO, people sort of assume that the word CEO means I'm instantly evil, like landlords are evil, tax people are evil, those kinds of things. But it is possible to be a nice landlord. I mean, it's hard, but it's also very possible to be a nice CEO and a good CEO, and people just don't connect those dots. But in my case, I'm super proud of Tree Frog. We just won in Canada the best culture of the year award. So best place to work for human beings. And we are what's effectively what's called a B org in Canada, which is we care about the environment, we care about our people, we care about our clients, we care about all sorts of other stuff. So I'm not an evil CEO. I'm not, hoarding money and piling it up. Actually, I'm a pretty broke musician that spends most of his money helping other people or making art or helping orphans or paying my people well. So, however that works.
Super interesting. And I'm glad that you're doing all that, you know? Definitely taking off the edge because I think that your music is fantastic. And I think that, yeah, the internet can be a little bit unforgiving at times.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Really
Of
appreciate that.
course. And now into going a little bit more into your music, I think that another reason why a lot of people found you was through your collaboration with Jordi Greep, which was, when I saw it, I think I laughed out loud because genuinely two parts of my life that I never thought would intersect, coming together. Would you mind telling us about how that happened and the effects of it?
How did that happen? It was Jordy for sure. The reality is I know a lot of musicians. I spent a lot of time. Actually, yesterday I was hanging out with OK Go, which is also a really cool band. Another like interesting bisection. And I've been involved. I'm old, so I've been involved with a lot of really famous, well-known musicians for a long time. And so Jordy reached out to me. I listened to his music, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! Like I haven't heard of." And he was like, "Hey, we should do something together." And then I said, "Okay, well, the next time I'm in the UK, we should bump into one another." And then he actually said, "Well, I'm going to be in North America. Where are you in North America?" And I said, "I'll be in Toronto because that's where I live in the Toronto area." And he said, "Okay, well, come to my show." And I said, "Great, I'll meet you at the show and we'll meet and we'll hang out." And then I looked at his tour dates and I'm like, he's in Nashville. So I texted him, I'm like, hey, you're in Nashville on the whatever date the week before. And I happened to be there because I was making TikToks, doing some recording, doing a bunch of other things. And I literally met him on stage. So like he called me onto the stage. I was standing in the audience. I'd never met him physically before. Never heard his real life voice. Just walked up on the stage and his band honored me by letting me sing with them. And then got to hang out with them that evening, which is really cool. They're a really cool group.
For
Really cool.
sure.
And when they came to Toronto, we went up the CN Tower, which is, something I haven't done in a decade because it's not something a regular Canadian does. But I just wanted to like hang out with them, and we had dinner and looked over the city while it snowed. It was fun.
I'm so glad. It really is hilarious. Um, did you guys work on any music together, for chance?
We are actually working on some music. They're doing some stuff. So, but I shouldn't talk about that until it actually happens. That's jinxing it.
Mhm.
Uh, But yeah, obviously they're incredible musicians. They're the whole group, and Jordy's amazing. I love the way he thinks. And so we'll see. Who knows what comes out of that? That'll be an interesting bisection. We got time. We got time.
It'd be awesome. My story with Jordy is again, I haven't really talked to him, but I've been working with his people for the past 6 months on something, and similarly, like you, I was on guest list for his show in Atlanta, except we had the worst snow we've had in 5 years. And like it was sold out. I don't even think half the people could go. And they didn't cancel the show, which is pretty sad for me. So, I mean, I was so close. We were so close to doing something and it fizzled out. So I'm just praying. I mean, his people have told me that he's going to tour relentlessly for the next couple years and he'll be back in Atlanta, just like that. And I'm really hoping because what happened with you and Jordy, especially at the Blue Room, which I'm sure as you know is a absolutely legendary venue. Like only the best of the best play that. I mean, it's like the stars aligned.
It was a very interesting alignment, wasn't it? It was very funny. Listen, listen, I'm a musician for a long time, and it's been really fun to this sort of Instagram and TikTok and related social media things have sort of suddenly shone me in the spotlight, which I did not have before. And I would have never gotten to meet Jordy if it was not for that. Even though Black MIDI was something that friends and other people had sort of introduced me to, I didn't make the connection right away. So yeah, it's really cool that that this sort of voyage that I'm on is leading me in weird places. It's sort of part of the adventure.
Exactly. And I hope that I'll be able to, take a similar voyage because of what I do YouTube. And it is harder with 40-minute long videos to get those up and going. But I think I've been seeing something that like what you've been seeing. Where recently I've had the best views I've had. I've been doing this for a year now. Best views I've had, most subscribers I've ever had. And it's picking up. What is your advice to creators like myself and creators throughout the world who are trying to get a piece of the action that you have?
Oh man, I have no idea. Advice. I don't think I'm at a point yet where I deserve to give advice because I think a lot of it's just luck, maybe consistency. I mean, one of the things on consistency is, and it's how it all started was I wanted to have more visibility for what it was I was doing in music. So I'd released a record the year before, and literally both people that listened to it, like my mother and maybe my daughter, listened. And so I wanted more people to listen to it. I mean, I spent years recording this, what I thought was amazing music. And the band was a little bit disappointed because it didn't get any traction and blah, blah, blah. So I went on the internet, started watching YouTubes about how to get better at music. And I bumped across this guy named Damian Keys. And I started watching all his videos about the future of music and what's happening and how to do social media. And I just sort of watched all of his videos for musicians, and they were all brilliant. I was like, whoa, this is crazy good. Like, I've never thought of it like this. It's always been like a record, and then you go out on tour. And his sort of rethink of that was start releasing more regularly, release singles, focus on yourself as a personality as well as the band, like start rethinking the way you do music. And that got me, and also post consistently, like at least 3 times a week, maybe four, maybe more, and post, yourself singing songs and doing activities. And if you follow his logic, I mean, I would say so sign up. It's like I'm there, I don't get any kickback. It's like $20 a month or something. And it gives you all of these videos on how to be better at social media and get your music out there. And just by doing what he suggested, That's when sort of rectangles started to take off, started to get visibility. What's interesting is it's not translating particularly into, music success. I mean, I think I've had 1 million listens on Spotify and related things, which is a lot, don't get me wrong. But like yesterday, I had 2 million people on Instagram see me, and probably 1,000 of them actually went and listened to the music. So the math on it, yeah, I guess that's like 0.1% of people even found it interesting. So it's not terrible, but it's it's interesting to see what the connection is from as an artist and a musician between social media and the way I want people to interface. Like I want people to like listen to the music and appreciate the art, not watch me be an idiot on Instagram. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think there's some crossover though, because as a viewer myself, I love seeing just like the videos of you in, Times Square or in what you were at the Taj Mahal, just wherever doing this, in public too. I think that has a significant effect on the brain when you see someone kind of singing their song and seeing other people's reactions to it in like live time, Like it's definitely different than most like the formula that other musicians have to promoting their music, where it's just a script and you do the same thing over and over again in your room or whatnot.
Absolutely. It's really hard too. I mean, what you're doing, honestly, Jay, is it's the fact that you're going to this level of creating content, reaching out to me. It's hard, like that you gotta like work up the strength and do the thing, and then set yourself up, and that the amount of energy that takes, and now do that again. So going out on the street and spending a whole day trying to get people to respond to your music, it takes so much personal energy that and just rejection after rejection after rejection, the threat of getting beaten up, and like it's not magical, but it works. I mean, then millions of people will go listen to the song that you put your life and your essence into over the course of time.
Exactly. And I've had success similar to that, right? My biggest video is one that I never thought would get that big because it was my third interview ever with a crappy microphone, a crappy camera. I was in like the basement where it echoes, with a very small band, about the size of Geordie, and it has 15,000 views. It just consistently gets hundreds of watch hours, thousands of watch hours. And getting that taste, I think, is what kind of starts it. Because once you see the taste of success, you can't stop. And now I've been lucky enough to have a lot of my videos past that 1,000 view mark, and to the sky. That's kind of the hope. Speaking of that, and collaborations and interviews and whatnot, I'd love to hear if you have any other collaborations, especially with, I'm sure Jordi Greep is in that, they call him like the Brixton scene, like the windmill scene because of the venues they play. There are plenty of other incredible bands that are cough cough, have an album out soon, and cough cough on press right now that I would love to see you collaborate with, such as Black Midi, New Road, and my new band, I think it's called Believe. Are you in talks with some of these bands to do stuff? And if not, would you like to?
Yeah, I'm always up for collaborations and interesting. I mean, part of the musical journey is to discover new musicians and see what their perspectives are and get a sense to talk with them and get engagement and go back and forth. And that's part of the fun because artists are interesting, fun people and they pull your brain. I mean, in conversations with Jordi and his band, we were sort of having discussions about where's music headed, what's the effect of AI going to be on music, what about production and et cetera? How will it look in the future? And that perspective and I mean, that's just great. When it comes to actually getting together as two people writing in a room, that gets harder because especially if you're in UK. So how are we gonna, in the old days, just all go sit in a bar and jam. But if we're in multiple countries, we literally have to fly to other countries to get the same context. So that gets more interesting. Right now, I mean, literally, I starting to work with the drummer from OK Go. We just having a conversation recently, so that's the first place. This is the first place you'll hear that. And I've got we've got a couple of other activities happening with other musicians. How far along am I with those in those conversations? I'm always open. So if there's a band out there that's interested in working with me, they should just reach out and maybe we'll look at doing something together. It's cool.
I would love to see that. Are there any bands that you specifically would like to work with, though?
Any bands that I would like specifically to work with? Not after I should think about that. Jay, I appreciate that. I should probably sit down. You know, a business thing is if you really want to work with clients, you like sit down and figure out exactly what clients you want to work with, and then you go out and try and work with those. I haven't done that. I really should. I think it would be fun to even take songs. I can even take Rectangular and have somebody else do a whole other version of it, or
Almost like Jordi Greep did at the show.
yeah, exactly. That was like the lounge version. That was amazing. And yeah, there's stuff that I mean, I did the same thing. I gave him other tunes that I haven't released yet and said, hey, do you want to take this off in the Geordie way and see what else you can do with it? But yeah, I should think about who it is that I mean, there are like, you know, the big star bands. Like I'm a huge fan of the Chili Peppers, and I would love to play with Flea one day, although I'd probably just be bowing the whole time. So I'm not sure if I could actually get any notes out of my body. Who else would be interesting? I think about that. That's cool. I would say one thing. I'm really, as you know, I'm sort of genre fluid. I don't really have like Jordy. He's just sort of like there's no sort of like salsa jazz meets rock and roll punk meets. You know, there's not really there's just a beautiful mix of things, right? And when you mix all of those things together, it's kind of like a multicultural meal where you've got like a burger and then some curry with some all some different pieces all in one place. And I like to do that. So like I don't really have mainstream and intent. I don't have that. I think what would be really cool though is if we could find interesting musicians in India or interesting musician in Africa and and that's sort of where I'm going right now is to try and expand those influences and do some interesting stuff that way.
I would love to see that. And speaking of Africa in specific, I'm sure you know that I think that scene of kind of like I don't even know what the sound like desert rock, maybe one would call it, is popping off, and all these bands are getting blessed to these incredible tours and hitting every single state and making money and touring nationally, doing everything. I would really love to see because that music is kind of like Geordie, but maybe more. I can't. You can't even describe it. Which is good music. Good music you can't describe, and I think that would definitely be an incredible. Imagine Saharan rock meets like I am rectangular Saharan rock edition, you know? Like I
Oh,
think that would hit the charts right there.
yeah. That's a cool idea. Try that for sure.
Awesome. And like we talked about when you're trying to promote music, a lot of people say you have to get on tour. You found that it's best to post your videos on social media. Another big part that people would say is merchandise. What are your thoughts? And will we perhaps see some records in the future?
Yeah, great two questions. So the first is touring. Let's talk about touring for a second. I have toured. So let's be clear, I did tour. I spent my in my early days as a musician, I played 4 days a week, cafes, anything I possibly could. And then I've done the whole get in a car with my band, a bunch of smelly guys driving from the city to city, playing great places, terrible places, great gigs, terrible gigs, and sort of going through the whole gamut. It's incredibly time consuming. Like it requires the energy of like four human beings, which is in my opinion, why most rock and roll musicians, I know like well, why many musicians end up on drugs or drinking or just to cope, just for the pure energy of it all. Because you're just putting yourself out there. It's like playing a championship game every single night over and over and over and over again. And sometimes you even play 2 gigs a day and you're putting your everything you possibly have. Like you're leaving nothing. And by the time you get off the stage, there's nothing left. And then you somehow have to pack up all your stuff, help carry the drums to the van, drive somewhere else for the next day. It is crushing. So I'm not against touring, but actually, what I'm interested in doing now is finding bands like with Jordy, where I just show up and sing or play a couple of tunes and like be involved and help them promote. But the idea of doing a full-on tour right now, until I have the fan base that really wants me to go do that, it just doesn't make sense for the energy versus time. And I do have this day job, CEO day job, also like putting a full-time person into. So I'm kind of like a 12-hour day plus a 12-hour day. That doesn't make sense. So I'm having fun and sort of the off times doing music when, making the music. And then this mechanism of getting it out through Instagram, like to have 2 million people. Do you know how many gig shows you'd have to do to get 2 million people to see your show? Like it doesn't make sense. And so let's talk about merch. So I'm going to say it here. When will you go live with this? Like immediately or?
Today,
Wow. Okay.
I have a
Uh,
really fast turnaround time.
Wow. Well, I'm going to say it here for the people here that I'm actually putting a website live tomorrow. Nobody knows this. So you'll be your fans will be the first people that hear this, which will be seanstevens.music. And I have a ton of merchandise. I've been working with artists now for, I don't know, 6 months to do different versions of it's all based on the well, so literally, I've got one. I've got a proof right in front of me here. First time seeing it. So you have to pause to see that one. Needless to say, the goal is to be slowly releasing different forms of merch, t-shirts, mugs, blah blah blah. And I'm actually starting a whole new thing. I'm going to start a membership system. This is just my business brain going. And I'm basically going to carve it up. Most memberships are like, we're going to do more and more for you. Instead, I'm like, look, I'm a pretty well off guy. I don't really need people's money particularly. But I have access to people that nobody else does. So one is I'm starting a membership with to promote my mother's orphanage in Africa. And so if you give me money, then I will give you early access to art, access to merch, do all much stuff, and I'll send the money to orphans. And I'll actually double it and send the money to orphans. So that's because it's promotion for me. You're gonna have a mug, you're gonna think about me, and eventually, hopefully, I'll generate some additional revenue, which I'll double. And then the second opportunity is if you want to pay a membership fee, then I'll take that money and I'll give it to other artists. So I know tons of artists, which I support a lot of them. But I would love to have, because I have access to artists and I have access to people, amazing bands in Canada, mostly that people have never heard of. And some ideas to start basically a fund, like a VC fund, as I do in the startup world, and start promoting bands using the membership fees from that. And then I'll record other bands like for free, like use the money from my fans to record other music, find cool stuff that nobody's ever heard of, and sort of unlock it or get it out there into the zone. And then lastly, if people just want to pay me to make more music, like it does cost money to make music, there isn't ultimately a limitation on that. I was approached by a producer recently, which is a super crazy famous producer. And the reality is it costs money to bring in all the art and pay the studio fees. And it's not thousands of dollars, it's tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the reality is, I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on this right now. But if people are willing to pay membership fees and I can get into that sort of that rarefied air of top producers, top musicians, pay for flea, that's like a goal of mine. But I think he charges like $250,000 just to show up. So I can't like afford $250,000 to have Flea play on my stuff when I should be spending that money on orphans and using some other. But if people want to see that happen, then those are sort of the ideas. So that merch and that sort of mechanism, I'm now going to start monetizing, but not monetizing just put money in my pocket, but monetizing to drive art and drive my people, if that makes sense.
That's very beautiful and very heroic of you to do that. I think many musicians, especially big ones, don't do that. It's kind of like I'm sure you've seen the picture of Bono wearing the Gucci glasses in some rural village in Africa, like for a press stunt. That it rubs you off the wrong way, you know? So seeing musicians do it the right way and give, especially if your mother has an orphanage, then that deserves to get funding, that deserves to get help to make these people's lives better. I think that's pretty incredible
Yeah.
and a
I still
great
want
tier two system.
glasses. I should be clear. I still want to wear cool Gucci glasses, like the big bug eye glasses. I don't know. There's got to be a balance in the world where we have to help the people who need help, and we also have to promote the artists. Like Gucci also needs some support and some maybe not well maybe Gucci, but whoever else that is, because fashion is also an art,
Of
and
course.
fashion, etc. I think that's also important. But I do think you have a point where most musicians take the money and hoard it, and that's the same thing that CEOs do. CEOs hoard money. Musicians hoard money. Everybody's hoarding money, and if we would just actually start supporting other people with it, we could go much farther, in my opinion.
Of
So
course. And it's just to make my point clear, it's not like indie musicians. It's certainly not. It's kind of just these big arena bands. Like Alice in Chains, you heard they got funds during the pandemic and misused it and just put it in their own pockets. Like that kind of stuff leaves the wrong taste in your mouth, especially when it's a childhood band that everyone looks up to, which you could become. Who knows?
I'd love that, man, and I'd love my art. I mean, I don't have this need to make millions of dollars off of art because I found other ways to make millions of dollars, if that makes sense. But I would like my art to self-support. Like I would put more time and energy into it and being able to support other people along the way and pull them up because there's so many amazing artists that don't get recognized, and there's so many people that need help in the world. I mean, why not support all people that way? Just makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. And I'm so glad you're making merchandise, Please send some of that in this way because that would be incredible. And if
I
you're
need
ever in
some
Atlanta,
I need some testers. Send me your address, man, and I will send you
sure.
free merch.
Awesome. And
It-
if you're ever in Atlanta, let's meet up, okay?
let's go for sure. I'm in.
So this has been an awesome interview. I'm so glad that you could take out the time of your day and join me. I hope that you keep doing what you're doing and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Amazing. So nice to meet you, man. It was so
Yeah.
peace and love. As I like to say, love and acceptance. Need to get this one going with rectangles, but
Yeah. Awesome.
thank
Well, I will see you and the saga continues.
you. Got it.